Divine greetings, entities, energies, lovelies, bodies of light, seekers, and sojourners of truth, the 144, the chosen of the chosen of the chosen few, and all of my fellow 5D light bodies that are turning over the new leaf, that are setting the foundations, the pioneers that are setting the path, the way for the new earth, the new age. We're giving birth to the new earth. That was my word today. As I laid down and looked up to the sky, I just found myself repeating that we are giving birth to the new earth, or we are giving birth. I am giving birth to earth, right? Which earth just represents the manifested form. So I greet you all in the love that lights the truth. I am akilahtextri. Welcome into to the divine energy, because it is divine. Right. So I want to share with you all. I was saying I didn't even know what to title this, but this comes up today because I want to speak about the numerology code of 5, the number 5, and what 5 represents. And in this case, what's even deeper, the message I'm getting through this is about an intercourse within our soul. Right. We're intercoursing to integrate. It's a very huge step in a part of our integration, and meaning between the masculine and the feminine. And as I speak on, you will see why. Right. So there's a code. I'm going to give you a little bit. Excuse my noisy background. Neighbors. Right. The code, I'm going to give you a little bit of what I got, but I'm just going to speak to you about the number 5. Right. And the number 5 means balance. Numbers mean different things, but I'm giving it to you as I get it, and as it interprets through me, as it translates through me, because everyone interprets things differently, right? So 5 representing balance between the physical and the spiritual, right? So today, reason why I say it's a code of 5 for today, because if you add the day up, it's 7/9/2023. You add it all up and it adds up to the number 23. 2, 3 is 5. 2 and the 3 reduces to 5, depending on how you look at it. Either adds up to 5, or as most people say, reduces to 5. So 5 is the number of the day. And as I saw that 5, it just hit me in my third eye. So I'm sharing this with you all. I'm giving you this galactic news that you choose to infuse. This is mainly the news I give you all is for those of us who are advancing into 5D. And these are things, tools or messages sometimes that I get to help us, transcend over or transition into. Right. So the code of 5, which is that balance, as I said, between the spiritual and physical, which is the balance of the duality between the masculine and feminine. The masculine more representing the physical, and the feminine is more representing the spiritual. Why do I say that? Because if I look at it in soul conscious aspect, when we look at it through the soul conscious aspect, there's the conscious phase of mind and there's the subconscious phase of mind. The conscious phase of mind is the masculine and the subconscious is the feminine. And so as they work together, you will see that the conscious phase of mind is what's done. It's our executor. It's what we do consciously, right, in our life, world, and affairs. And the subconscious mind is usually in the back of our mind. It's more the invisible aspect, to put it plain and simple. The conscious phase of mind is more of the physical, visible aspect. It's where we do everything, where we're aware of everything. And the subconscious phase of mind is more of the invisible aspect, the things that we're not aware of. Therefore, it's usually the more spiritual aspect. So this balance between the physical and spiritual is also a balance between the masculine and feminine. And as this comes to mind, it reminds me of the Mars and the Venus, which is traveling in conjunct in Leo. I believe Mars is about to leave Leo right about now, but they were traveling together between since June 18th to July 18th, with what degrees between them? 5. I was seeing 5 again. So, and this is, again, Mars and Venus usually represents the masculine and feminine. So with the masculine and feminine, it is now highlighting to us there's a balance. They're moving together from June. Look at the numbers too, from June 18th to July 19th. June 18th, and remember the 8 and the 1 reduces to the 9. The 8, both of them, the 18th to the 18th. And 1 and 8 reduces to 9. What is 9? Spiritual completion. There is a spiritual completion to be had, right? This is a time for us to turn in our completion of it. As I wrote down earlier, right? It's time to turn the 360 degrees of our soul's completion. It's representing some type of completion from one completion to another, right? And how I like to look at it too, because people often say, this is my better half. And I look at it more as this is the whole, right? This is one whole person that makes another whole person. So from one completion to another, that's kind of how it resonates with me, right? So the completion of 1/8 on June 18th, that's one completion all the way to July to another completion. So from masculine to feminine completion. You know, from Mars to Venus, completion. Whatever the duality is, there is a completion. From the physical to the spiritual, completion. From one completion to another, right? That's what we're seeing with these numbers. And they're traveling together at 5 degrees. So they're showing there's a balance. It's literally telling, it's like if you could see Venus, Mars, and in between them, the 5 degrees, the number 5 in between is telling you there is a balance to be made. There is a balance to be had between that masculine, feminine energy, between the physical, spiritual, right? So this is something that we are seeing come upon us and approaching us. Another note from that is that also this is the day right before we enter the new beginnings plus 5 vortex. And I know some of you may not like, what is she talking about? I probably have to do a whole different video from that. But for my tribers, for those of us who have been working together and doing the soul work together, to my 5D light bodies, my 5D family, we know, because we've been working on this new beginnings. There's a new beginnings cushion. I'm just going to give you a brief just so you understand what I'm talking about. And I'll probably have to do a separate video specifically speaking about the new beginnings, what it means and what it represents. So it is a day that is 10 days, because 10 represents new beginnings. That's why we call it new beginnings, from the 10th to the 19th of every month for the rest of this year. It started in February because of the numerology code, where between the 10th and the 19th, every day, when you added up the entire date, it equaled that day. So on the 10th, the numbers equal 10. On the 11th, it equaled 11, and so on all the way to the 19th. So we realized that this was a type of vortex that is preparing us. It's cushioning us for the new beginning, those of us who are entering into new beginnings. And each month had a theme that kind of helped us into getting deeper and deeper into the new beginnings of this integration into what we are. They would have to get louder, right? Into the integration of synchronizing the integration of our souls, right? Of our soul's work of 5D, 3D, between you, your family, integrating within your soul at a soul level, and integrating between other souls within this earth. It's a whole integration theme this entire year. We're practicing integration. So for those of you who are thinking 5D, I got to get out of here, it's really for us to integrate, right? I'm not saying go be best friends with toxic people, but what I'm saying is we are practicing to separate so that we can come together and know how to best integrate in true heart vibrations of how we should be integrating with one another. So with that said, these new beginnings days of 10 are helping to prepare us. So we first started it in February, and then there was March, April, May, and as we went on with the months, it became a +1, +2, because the number of the days would add up to that day +1 or that day +2. So this is why you hear me saying +5. So where we are now in July, the new beginnings vortex between the 10th and the 19th is a +5. So if you count the days, every day between the 10th and the 19th, it's going to add up to that day +5. So for example, tomorrow's the 10th. It's going to add up to 10 + 5, which means it's going to add up to 15. You'll see. Do the work yourself. You don't got to trust my word. So this cushion, this new beginnings, as I saw that on top of today being 5, on top of me seeing the 5 degrees between Venus and Mars. And then it was like, whoa. And then tomorrow is our new beginnings plus 5. So that tells me that these 10 days, that this cushion that's preparing us into the new beginnings is really going to be highlighting, and we're really going to be working on the plus 5, which is about the balance. We are really going to be seeing the balance between the masculine and the feminine. And especially, it's no coincidence that Mars and Venus are still going to be at that 5 degrees all the way through until the 18th, which is pretty much at the end of our new beginnings, 10 days of new beginnings, because it ends on the 19th. So the next day it would be ending. Another thing to look at is on the 18th, it is the day that our nodes shift. So I guarantee you, whoever this is for, please look into it, look for yourself. This energy, it's here to help us if we pay attention. We can, when we find these codes and we find these vortex and gateways, and it's so important. And right now is really important because we're just now coming out of the Sirius gateway, but that energy is still, you know, resounding energy. It's a vibration that's like when you hit the gong, 1111. As soon as I saw that, I saw the numbers 1111 as I'm recording the time. So it is, the energies were here to help us from that full moon on the 3rd, which was the opening of the Sirius gate to the 777 portal, you know, which we won't see a 777 portal until maybe 2032 because of the way the numbers, you know, line up. So, and I did a live about that. You can, you know, watch the 7/7 portal about that, but, which is the one I did right before this. So the energies are really coming together, and it's helping us. It's such a boost right now. And it's showing us that and I've been seeing it the past couple of days. It's really been highlighting to me the divine masculine and divine feminine, even to the point of bringing me back into the Kemetic temples again, my pyramid people, back to the story of Aset and Asar. And that's a separate video that I'm going to have to give you all, because it's still being revealed to me on the balance between the masculine and feminine, that balance between Asar and Aset. Remember, that story is for our divine understanding of the Asar and Aset and Heru that is within us, right? And that is, that is the consciousness, the entire consciousness. This masculine and feminine is an intercourse within our own mind, right? It's happening within us as one. We are it's an intrapersonal soul work, intra meaning within. So within us, within me, this vessel right here, it is an intrapersonal soul work of an intercourse, inter meaning between, that is happening between the masculine and feminine that is within my soul. What is that? The conscious and the subconscious, right? The physical and the spiritual. So there is this harmonic dance that is happening in the soul if we are open to seeing it. And the energies are helping us with that. That's what I'm seeing with this number 5. It's like, take today and utilize today. Even if you see this another day, you are meant to see it whenever you see it, because maybe there is something in it that you understand as well, right? Divine timing. Whenever you get it, you get it. Don't think because you missed it, oh man, I missed today. No, you get it right when you get it. But it's just that the understanding of the number 5 is really it's such a loud gong to me right now. It's like boom, number 5, you know, spiritual balance, and it's so resounding, right? And it's to remind us that this masculine feminine energy within us is helping us, but we have to understand the roles, right? The masculine needs to check in. How do we, you know, I didn't even mention that, but I'm gonna give you a little bit of that. Because what does this harmony look like? Somebody might say, what does this harmony look like? So it's when the masculine in you, and it even has a deeper aspect to it, but I'm just going to give, you know, the basic, right? So the masculine, which is the soul's conscious phase of mind, the conscious phase of mind in the soul, needs to check in, right? So I want you to see this loop, this infinite loop, and it needs to check in to the feminine, and there's this constant loop. This is the harmonic dance that is going on, right? And so it is taking the masculine and humbling itself. It has to take the time and the opportunity to humble itself. And there's even steps to doing that. Because some people are like, well, how do I humble this ego? You know, the ego is not meant to be thrown away. What we want to do is rise our ego to the wise ego. So we want to take the misappropriated ego that only wants to protect us, but it's not, we don't need this protection anymore, right? If you're saying you need some kind of protection, you are operating in fear. So when you transmute into love, which is something you probably got to do first to understand what I'm saying, but when you transmute in love, you're getting rid of the fear. You're removing the fear, which means you're removing the need to control, which was what this full moon in Capricorn was about. So then you check in the masculine, which represents the ego, and you check it in to the feminine, right? You humble yourself. And in order to humble yourself, you need to quench the pride. This is why we have to have death. Let me do it like this. Death to the ego, because I don't want you to think you got to get rid of your ego, but we have to essentially kill. You know, that's why Asar had to be chopped up in pieces, you know, killed. This is something that this story means as well. It's unfolding still before me, but there's death to the ego. And then when that ego has been put to death, so to speak, then it can check in. It can humble itself and check in. And the feminine can, which is what Aset did, put the pieces back together. When you check into the feminine, and the feminine releases her understanding. And when I say her, I mean within us, right? So releases this understanding and intuition. So it's like, you know, check into the feminine releases her intuition. The masculine checks in, the feminine releases her intuition. And this is the give and take. This is the flow, you know. So when the masculine is putting something in, even if you think, this is why I call it an intercourse. If you even think of intercourse the way we talk about it physically, where the man puts something in, right? So the conscious phase of mind, the masculine aspect, the physical aspect needs to check in. That's the putting in that it needs to do. Check in into that feminine. And what happens in intercourse when the man checks in and then there is a release, then the woman releases something. She releases her essence, if you will. And so that essence is the divine essence from intuition. So, I mean, this is why we have to have a healthy outlook on intercourse, or what we call sexual contacts, because there is something very spiritual about it, right? So you check in, and this happens within our own mind, y'all. So yes, essentially, we are intercoursing ourselves on a regular basis. And this is how we do it intentionally, right? So the balance, that 5, this is what 5 looks like, a healthy balance of between the physical and the spiritual, the Mars and the Venus, the masculine and the feminine, is when you check in. The wisest man knows he knows nothing at all. So when that ego is in its wise ego, the wise ego goes, hey, I don't know nothing. I don't care what you say you know, what you think you know, what you know you know. We need to pull back and say, I know nothing. And that is true humility that will check itself into the feminine, so she can release new information, so she can release the intuition that flows from her freely. This is the harmonic dance. And then this is what Aset did when she put the pieces together. And while she was piecing Asar back together, she became pregnant with Heru. This is where they get the virgin birth from. She did not sleep with anyone. She became impregnated while she was releasing the intuition, while she was doing what the divine feminine does. And I'm saying she, but I'm talking about we, y'all. I'm talking about us. And so she checks in, and then now she, while doing that, well, he checks in, and while she releases, gives birth to Heru, which is the sun, S-O-N sun, or S-U-N sun, no matter how you look at it. The sun, that raw light, that sun is the super conscious mind. In comes the super conscious. You heard me talking about the conscious and the subconscious. That is the masculine and feminine. And when they are in a harmonic balance, right? Death to the old ego, so that she can release what she needs to release, so that there can be a birth. Here comes Heru. So what that means is when there's a harmony and a balance, then it gives way for the free-flowing ideas to come through your super conscious mind. That is the Christ consciousness, what they call the Christ consciousness. I'm going to call it the Heru consciousness, right? Or the Sun consciousness, or the Ra consciousness. The divine essence of your spiritual being comes to life. Your spiritual awareness comes to life, right? Sahu, for those of you who know the Kemetic, Sa, Sekem, Sahu, right? And Sa is the breath of life. Sekem is the universal animation when it's the universal animation that brings the spiritual awareness to life, right? And that Sahu is the spiritual awareness. So I'm so happy to be able to share that with y'all. So I'd say all of that to remind us that, again, this is a time to turn the 360 degrees of our completion of our soul. We are now being called into active duty within the intercourse of our soul. So it's time to become a part of that intercourse. So this is what I have to share with you guys about the code 5. Code 5, y'all. Code 5. I feel like that's what I want to run around and start saying to people. Code 5. Code 5. So for those of you who know and who know me, when I yell code 5, you know what I'm talking about. That means it's time to get that balance in check. And we have all the energy collectively helping us right now. Just look it up. Everything that I told you, look it up. You don't got to take my word. Look at the days about the new beginnings. Count them up for yourself. See how they are from the 10th to the 19th. They're all going to add up to that day plus 5. Look at Venus and Mars and the fact that how they have 5 degrees between them from the 18th of June to the 18th of July. And then the nodes will be shifting on the 18th. So there's a lot energetically happening. So I share that with you all so that we are aware of what our new mission is. The call to duty, y'all. The call to duty is that balance between the physical and spiritual. That balance within the intercourse within your soul, because it's going to call us to raise our vibrations and come away from our misappropriated ego and feelings into our divine wise ego, the divine masculine of the wise ego and the divine feminine of the intuitive feelings. And that is the sacred union that we want to have, right? And that is where we understand that where the duality meets in the center of infinite existence is love. That is infinite love. It is infinite existence. All right. So this is what we call for. This is what we're walking towards for those of us who are pioneering into the 5D. We're still working on integration. So integrate within your soul first and foremost, so that you can then have better interaction and integration between one another as we continue to have social interconnectivity, because that's what it's about. This is what we want to walk into responsibly, able to respond to the truth, right? This is a recall, and this understanding helps the recall of truth into our soul so that we honor our soul's purpose, so that we come back into right thinking, the balance of right thinking, right feeling, right knowing, right believing, all of that. It is a call for us to come up higher. So with that said, each one reach one, teach